I warn you that you should be أشد احتراس منكم من عدوكم, that you should be more concerned about your own condition than the condition of your enemies. Subhanallah. Reflect on this meaning. You should be more concerned about your own condition than the conditions of your enemies. The disease of the munafiqun, يحسبون ويحسبون كل صيحة عليهم. They think that every little thing is against them. No, think about who you are. Think about what you are. Think about what you have to offer. Don't think about what's being done out there. All of that is either tribulation from Allah or a blessing. There's nothing else. If harm comes to us, it's a tribulation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's how we should see it. So this is what Umar radiallahu anhu is saying to this man. Don't be concerned so much about your enemy. Be concerned about your own state. فَإِنَّ ذُنُوبَ الْجَيْشِ أَخْوَفُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ عَدُوِّهِمْ. Because the wrong actions of this army of the Muslims is more dangerous than the power of the armies that they're fighting of their enemies. وَإِنَّمَا يُنْصَرَ الْمُسْلِمُونَ بِمَعْصِيَةِ عَدُوِّهِمْ لِلَّهِ. And the Muslims are given victory based on the disobedience of their enemies. This is where the secret of the victory of the Muslims is, on the disobedience of the enemies that they're fighting and their distance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَوْلَا ذَلِكَ لَمْ تَكُنْ لَنَا بِهِمْ قُوَّةٌ لِأَنَّ عَدَدَنَا لَيْسَ كَعَدَدِهِمْ وَعُدَّتُنَا لَيْسَتْ كَعُدَّتِهِمْ. Because our numbers are not like their numbers. They outnumber us. They have always outnumbered us. Our numbers are not like their numbers. And our udda, our strength and power, is not like their strength and power. This is Umar ibn al-Khattab, al-Faruq, the one that the Prophet ﷺ said about him, if there was a prophet after me, it would have been Umar. فَإِنْ اسْتَوَيْنَا فِي الْمَعْصِيَّةِ فَإِنَّ لَهُمَ الْقَدْرَ عَلَيْنَا. If we become equal in disobedience to Allah, then they have the fadl, they have the preference over us fil quwwa, in strength. وَإِن لَا نُنْصَرْ عَلَيْهِمْ بِفَضْلِنَا لَمْ نَغْلِبْهُمْ بِقُوَّتِنَا. If we are not given victory over them by our preference, by our spiritual, ethical, moral superiority, then we will never defeat them with military strength and power. وَلَا تَقُولُوا إِنَّ عَدُوَّنَا شَرٌّ مِنَّا فَلَنْ يُسَلَّطْ عَلَيْنَا فَرُبَّ قَوْمٍ سُلِّطَ مَنْ هُوَ شَرٌّ مِنْهُ كَمَا سُلِّطَ عَلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ لَمَّا عَمِلُوا بِمَعَاصِي اللَّهِ كفار المجوس فجاءوا خلال الديار وكان وعدا مفعولا. And don't say that your enemy is worse than you and therefore they could never become over us. This is at a time when the Muslims knew nothing of victory. All they knew was victory. They didn't know defeat. And now we know the truth of Umar's statement. Don't say that because they're worse than you, they'll never have strength and power and overcome you. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give strength and power to those who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يَعْبُدُونِي لَا يُشْرِكُونَ بِي شَيْئًا. This is the state and condition that is a necessity for tamkeen in the earth. When we saw in Afghanistan, shurut al-nasr tawaffarat. They had the conditions of victory over their enemy. But shurut al-tamkeen is not the same as shurut al-nasr. The conditions of being established in the earth is not the same as the conditions of victory over the kuffar. And those conditions did not exist. And this is the theme that has been taken. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبِّ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. This is the sickness that we have, wallahi, is not ihtida. The sickness that we have is that we do not know the adab of ihtida. We don't know the adab of ihtida. We have lost the courtesies of disagreeing. Wallahi, there was a time in this ummah when Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu would sit with atheists, with mulhideen, and he would dialogue with them in the presence of Muslims with waqar and sakina, and he would convince them of the truth of Islam. The Muslims were never afraid to debate the non-Muslims, and yet now today we're unable to simply sit at a table together and speak with the adab and the courtesy of silence, of letting somebody finish what they have to say before we cut them off, of just showing off and impressing each other with things that we've memorized and these types of things. Imam Malik, he used to say, لَيْسَ الْعِلْمُ كَثْرَةَ الرِّوَايَاتِ وَإِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ نُورٌ جَعَلَهُ اللَّهُ بِقَلْبِ الْمُؤْمِنِ. Knowledge is not having lots of narrations and lots of memorizations. Knowledge is a light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in the heart of the mu'min. And this is the light that needs to be replaced. This is the light that needs to be recharged. And this is the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this light is the light of wahi. And when we return to the wahi of Allah, or we move forward with the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will be given victory. We will see people entering into the deen in these countries afwaja. When we clean up our neighborhoods, Wallahi, in this country, where are the dirtiest areas? I just ask you that. Go into the mosque, look at our mosque, look at how we treat the Quran, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to change ourselves. We need to elevate ourselves. And the most important elevation of the self is the elevation of our intellects. This is the light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Nurun ala nur, wahyun ala al-aql. This is the light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, that He ennobled Bani Adam. لَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا Bani Adam. Then Bani Adam was ennobled with the intellect, but when it's imbued with the light of wahi, then you see transformations, you see miracles, you see changes, you see progression, you see moving forward to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you see people being raised up in darajat.